Have
All
you
right.
started it yet?
We're live. Yes, we're live now, Grandpa. This is episode 119.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Well, let's do it. Let's for everybody who's back again. This is episode 119 of the Untitled Beer Ranking Show, our African continent history series. Today we're talking about Tanzania, but let's beer in first. Grandpa, what you got today?
Oh, I have Labatt's Blue. I don't think I haven't had none of that before. It's a local.
I don't think we have.
I don't think we've done it on the show, Pops. I feel like we've had that at the house with you before, but it's
You
if
did?
you don't remember,
Labatt's
it's a
Blue?
new experience.
You could have. I'm kind of forgetful. I don't remember nothing.
Okay.
And to be fair, Pops, we've had a lot of beers over the year.
Yeah.
We've had a lot. So
well, you got Labatt's. What you gonna rate Labatt's? What you gonna pre-rate it? What's the situation?
I'm gonna pre-rate it about 5.5.
Okay,
but I got to snip at it.
So, Mr. Walt, as you may understand, so it's out of 10. So, all right, we'll give it a taste.
But the thing about Mr. Walden is 6 is a high rating for Pop. 6 may as well be 10 for him. He will not go over 6.
Yeah, that's high standards.
Really, really like very happy.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say it's gonna make it to a 6 for the days out. Okay. It's still a 5.5 though.
All right. Well, Mr. Walt, do you have any libations, or are you you abstaining today?
I'm abstaining.
Okay, that's understandable. It must be.
But y'all go ahead and enjoy yourselves.
What do you got, Auntie?
I don't know. I've been waiting on your uncle to bring it in here. I texted him like, "Where's my beer?" I saw the glasses. He pulled out the glasses, but he didn't choose which one he wanted us to have today. I don't know what he's doing. So I guess whenever my husband says I could have some beer, I'll have some beer.
Let me see. Well, we went to this Blake cider mill and actually got some of this cider called Grizzly. Yeah, she got this thing called Grizzly Pear. So I'm gonna try it. It's Grizzly Pear, made with pears, not bears. That's what it says in the can.
Wow. Babe, how you gonna log in without the beer?
It's 5% alcohol. It's got a nice little pour. It's pretty light. I'm gonna say it's
that's juice, nephew.
I'm gonna start off with Grandpa said. Let's give it a 5.5 as my pre-rating.
I think, nephew, you could probably get it to my nephew's son.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you this. It smells a little bit like erasers. Like if you put an eraser on paper and erase real fast, it smells a little bit like that.
Well, you better hope it don't act like a eraser, because he might erase something.
Right. What?
You know what? It doesn't have a strong taste. You can definitely taste the pear. If you didn't tell me it was alcohol in this, I would not know. So you know what? It's not bad. Like, I mean, I would drink it, but I'll stay at 5.5.
Okay. And nephew, I see the new chair. Okay, welcome to the family. Welcome to the family. I see you. Okay,
who got the new chair?
Joshua.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm fixing
my
back.
He got the chair like me and Pooh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so my husband's trying to. So he brought me my beer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
Scared because initially we said we would split this beer, but he just brought me a whole one.
Oh, okay. Did he tell you what it was?
It's called Weekend Suburban Barrel Aged by Prairie Arts and Ales.
Yeah.
This bad boy is 14.2%. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Oh, you brought your own glass? Why you switch glasses? It was okay, we are gonna split it. Woo, thank you.
Yeah, that's the alcoholic contents, 14.2.
Yes, sir. See that? Oh, beautiful chocolate.
That's a dark beer.
Yeah.
Won't be no more work if we drink that solo.
Yeah, if we do a whole one. Cheers.
I might have drank that dark beer at Grandma's house that one day and fell asleep, and somebody tried to light my feet on fire.
Something like that.
I remember that. Who did that? Somebody stuck a match in your shoe sole or something.
Grandma you forget everything but stuff that happened to me.
No, I never would have remembered that though until you mentioned it. I'm trying to think of who done it.
Who did that to you, nephew?
I don't know. I was asleep.
Let's see. So my pre-rating on this one. Oh, it smells so good, nephew. You will love this. I'm gonna say at least 7.5 pops.
Woo! 7.5. I better get me some of that.
Pop, you
starting out with a 7.5.
Yeah. Well, based on what I remember, I'm starting off with an 8.5.
I might be at an 8. You see, I had to do a little jig for it.
But y'all drinking the same thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And he done kicked it up. Oh, okay, 7.5 to 8.5. All right.
Yeah.
I can live with it.
Oh yeah, it's like
Yeah.
because you can taste the what's in that, babe? Maple, something sweet.
Yeah.
Maple, caramel.
I'm at 9.
It's just slightly boozy. It was very boozy, but slightly carbonated.
Yeah, the coca nibs.
Yeah, you can taste the chocolate. It's good. Pops, if we tell you to drink it more like it's a bourbon, you will like it. If you think it's a beer, you wouldn't like it. But if you just drank it like, oh, what's this alcohol? You will like
it. Coca stout with coca nibs, toasted coconut, marshmallow flavor, vanilla, and caramel color.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Delicious. That's what that means.
All right. Well, let's now that we got the formalities of what the show is named after out the way, let's get to Tanzania, the country that we are speaking on today. So I'll start off with a little bit of basic history. Tanzania, as we know it today, is actually a combination of two larger mainland territories of, forgive me, whoever is hearing me pronounce this, Tanganyika and the coastal archipelago of Zanzibar. And before it was gained its independence after 1964, it was a part of the German East Africa colony. So there's a lot of another victim of the League of Nations. So
you said German East Africa colony? Is that what you said?
Yeah, part of the German East Africa colony.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about Tanzania is my interesting fact is apparently this is where the cradle of mankind is said to have been. So it's one of the old. Yeah, they say this is where they found some of, if not the oldest hominid settlements unearthed by archaeologists currently.
Now, you also, if you read the Bible, you find that it also says that humankind began roughly in that area between the river in Egypt, as the Bible says, meaning the Nile River, and it either mentions the Euphrates or the Tigris in Babylon. So science and the Bible sort of agree to some degree on where humankind began.
And they call that the Garden of Eden, didn't they? Where the 4 rivers met?
Yeah.
Euphrates and the Tigris and the Nissan and another river, I believe. So that was down in Tanzania, eh?
In that roughly in that area.
Oh, okay.
But Tanzania, as it is today, Grandpa, is an amalgamation of other countries that were once there and became Tanzania as it is today.
Okay.
I said, I'm looking. Oh, I just want to see what's, because up here, I don't know if y'all can see it. That's like an old map of Africa. So I was trying to see what it said on there, but it does say Tanzania on there. But you said it's a collection of what? Because I know you said that you said Zanzibar. So Zanzibar, I see Zanzibar on here.
It's a combination of, and I'm just gonna put it on the screen because I'm not gonna spell this.
Okay.
Y'all can laugh at me if you want to.
Hey, you sound better than me, brother. So
I'm just trying, man. Like it's hard to say.
I was trying to get the glare from the light off of it. That made it worse. That's a little bit better.
Well, you know, we don't.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I never knew it was a combination of other nations.
So it's a combination of this place and Zanzibar that's on the screen right here.
Tanganyika.
What'd you say, Graphic?
No, I was just pronouncing what I was reading there. Tanganyika.
Say that again.
That ain't the way you pronounce it.
No, I just need you. I need to hear you say it again. What was the place?
Tanganyika.
Oh, okay.
That's what it sounds like. That's what it looks like.
That's not.
That's the best I can do. Tanganyika.
So
yes.
Oh, hold up. Is this? Of course, we got the celebrity guest today outside Mr. Walton.
Is it my niece?
No, it's Uncle Hank.
Oh, the other one.
But is he coming in? But yeah. So what were you saying, Mr. Walton? You said you knew a little bit more about it. You said based on historically in the Bible.
Yeah, well, just that the Bible and science just agree on where humankind began, that it all began right there in Africa, in Eastern Africa. And, so nobody can make any kind of, say anything other than that when science and the Bible agree. No, they don't agree on everything, but, on that point, they do.
Oh, okay.
Now, also, the point of it being a combination of different nations. In Africa, there are more than 800 different language groups, and each language group represents a separate nation. Now, if you grew up when I did, watching too many Tarzan movies, you think of a tribe as being 30 guys in grass skirts running out of some mud huts. But a lot of these, what we might call a tribe, are nations of hundreds and of thousands of people. And colonialization was when the Europeans came there to Africa and tried to force some of these nations to be part of their colonies. And that caused some of the conflicts that we see in more recent times. That, people who never got along with each other, they would stay in their particular area and try to not interact too much, were forced into the same European controlled colony.
Now, babe, what were you saying last week about somebody told you about the use of the word tribe? And hey, bro.
Oh, yeah. Hey, bro. What's happening?
What's up, good
just talking about how they don't like that term, because it's more demeaning rather than honoring or blessing. So they try not to use that term, which is tough because we've been conditioned to, right? Like you speak of tribes when it comes to people that look like us, and nations when it comes to Europeans.
No. So, hey, Uncle Hank, we're talking about Tanzania today.
But you know like you were about to say something.
Yeah. So what's the difference between the African tribe and the European clan? I mean,
I guess that would honestly be like a nice comparison. I guess I don't know, but I don't really hear the term clan used often, right? Like we don't, except when you talk about like the Celtic clan or something like that. But that maybe that is like an equivalent. That seems pretty interesting. But typically when we talk about tribe, it'll be like the Benin tribe, right? But that wasn't a tribe, that was a nation, right? That was a whole empire that had its own dynasty. So it's like using the word tribe like belittles their accomplishments in civilization.
And that's what made me think about it. What Mr. Walton was saying, everything he's saying ties into what you said last week. With we think of tribe as thinking of little small people like in our subdivisions, just a few people who together, like, hey, this is our tribe, this is our buddy. Like it's almost like your chapter, your fraternity or sorority, whereas as both of you are saying this, it was way bigger than that. It's way, way bigger than that, and they tried to minimize it. So that's interesting. I will say that's going to be a challenge to remove that word just because of the way it's received.
It seems interesting to learn the history around the Tanzanian region. I don't know much about it. Like I don't know much about East Africa in general, right? Particularly that area, lower East Africa. I just know it's like beautiful, and that's where the everyone goes to see the safari, right? Like the Great Migration happened along that area or something like that. I know Kenya is the result of the Great Migration, but I'm not sure.
Well, I mean,
And I know I'm going
based on some
to Zanzibar next year. That's what I know.
Based on some of these discoveries that, or I should say, discoveries that people are saying, like some of the oldest humanoid fossils were found there are thought to be over like almost 2 million years old, but they were using tools all the way back then. Like the Stone Age is hell long, so it's just interesting. Like even
That's the
before.
technical term. That was the scientific term. Hella.
Well, actually, did you know hella actually is a unit of measurement? A few years ago,
Straight up, of course it is.
It's like I think it's to like the 14th power. You reach into the hellas. Like there's trillions and things like that, but hella is actually a unit of measurement.
Wow.
Yeah, but
and that makes me feel better because I say hella a lot, and I can remember the first time somebody was thrown off by it. I guess in the Midwest, I was talking to somebody, I think in New York or somewhere, and they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Y'all don't say hella." And I'm like, "That means a lot and big." They were like, "Oh, I can tell you from the Midwest." So, oh, that's cool to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that there's like how we look at ourselves in the modern day. How 100 years ago we were still in the beginning of the industrial age. Now we're in the technical age, and that short span of time, our technology has grown so vast by our reckoning. But the Stone Age seemingly lasted several million years, and people were just here on Earth using stones for tools and things. And then it didn't get to the Iron Age until about 2,000 years ago. So for most of human history, back to like evolved human history, people just been using stonework. Like metal wasn't even a big thing until fairly recently in our development.
Well, I think you're using a false narrative and timeline, right? Every day we discover that man and technology is a lot older than we can truly comprehend. So, yeah.
Well, speak deeper on that. Go deeper on that.
No need to. It's about as deep as I can go.
Okay.
Well, we do know that the pyramids in Egypt are about 4,000 years old. So they used some awesome technology that we still don't understand today. We're still trying to figure out how they did it. And you had people like von Daniken and others who try to say, "Oh, spaceship came from Mars or somewhere and built the pyramids and then left," because they don't want to admit that Africans had such an advanced civilization that they were able to build those long before any place in Europe had anything substantial.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Mm-hmm.
You
said it.
Right there on the tip of your tongue, right? You took the words out.
My understanding too is that the Iron Age, it's about 4,000 years old or better, isn't it? For the Africans, be the first to smelt iron.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like in terms of like everyone using it like on a massive scale, it was about 2,000, but yeah, about 4,000 or a little bit more before that. But like what I'm saying is, it's just so interesting that the leap between stone and iron, and then now our age was actually a lot shorter. So like the Stone Age, where people were using stone and woodwork tools and things of that nature, lasted millions of years. Then the moment you got iron, you leaped into a new bound. Now you can make giant structures because you can cut stone with something harder than stone. And then we came to the industrial age and we managed to you learn metallurgy a little bit better. And now we're in the technical age. And that all span happened in like 2,000 years. So you went from millions of years of staying in place to in a shorter 2,000 year period. Now we can fly in the air and we're talking to each other via this program. Like it's just interesting to think about how fast you can go once you get something.
Yeah. Again, I think there's lost history and lost technology. There's nothing new under the sun, right? I mean, if there's ever a true statement, that's it. The reality is man could have been flying long before. We know that even in Egypt back in the day, they had what they consider a computer or even batteries, right? They would lead you to believe that they built the pyramids on the back of slaves, and just the precision and the precise alignment with Orion, you know, it's just not possible, right? I mean, that's just a fact. So I don't know if we made this giant leap, or are we just picking up where we left off back in time, right? Just we're rediscovering technology.
Yeah, I always wonder, like if the world had advanced here already and messed everything up, right? Like, and then they were like, hey, maybe we should just go back because this stuff leads to death and destruction, and now we're picking it up. Like, hey, we got this new thing, and it's like, no,
right,
right. It's sort of like though we don't understand gravity and levitation. I think that's the key that we might have lost years ago. If we understood the real gravity or levitation, maybe we might be able to pick up a 1,000,000-pound stone and move it, you know.
I think to your point, and your point, Pooh, is that we're on the same destructive path of the civilization that passed before us, right?
Oh, okay.
And it's that continuum cycle. That's what I honestly believe.
And then we're going to end up back in the Stone Age. it's like Groundhog's Day, right? It's just going on for millions of years.
Yeah.
And every generation think they smarter than the one before, right? That's weird.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the only real things I could find on Tanzania are bringing up how it's the quote cradle of civilization that as we know it, and then it just kind of leapfrogs into, well, this is the trade route they went to, and I'm like it's just very interesting. Like, you know, people started here and then nothing happened, and then trade happened, and
everybody left.
Yeah, that's strange. Like, I understand people are nomadic and they move around, but you would think there'd be more of a cultural background for all the thousands of millions of years of assumed history that have been there.
Believe me, it's there. It's just not for your consumption, right? Your history is being hid from you every day by every major nation. Hell, I always said if you could go into the Queen's Castle in England, you could really probably get down in the basement and find out who you really are.
Yeah.
Well, I did find
Hold on, Josh. I just saw something that speaks to that said the only reason the pyramids and the Sphinx that are still in Egypt because they couldn't figure out how to drag them to England, right? Like damn, blow the nose off and let's get out of here.
You say blow the nose off and let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
Well, I did find something on, like, so there were people who did migrate into the area, like the Bantu people, some of the Cushitic peoples. It's mainly, it seems like Tanzania, which is a melting pot of other cultures moving in different parts of Africa because of where it was located.
You know, you mentioned the Bantu people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really funny. This recent phenomenon in hair care and the Bantu knot that a lot of women like, they're wearing something that's culturally significant to them, but they don't know what the hell it means. It's just a twisted hair knot. But it is interesting how you can accept something and make it a daily part of life and really not know the significance of the history as it relates to you, you know? Sorry, didn't mean to get off track. Just
that's right on point. Because it's too often when you talk about even when you said the hair made me think about even tattoos, with folks getting tattoos of symbols and not knowing what they stand for, what they mean, just because they think they look good and they think they're cool. That's why so many people walking around have no connections to Asia at all, China, with symbols on them, but they don't know what they mean, don't know what they represent. That's why I was actually looking at my tattoo this morning. I have an iAffirm tattooed on my side, and I made sure I didn't get it until I knew what it meant and that it actually resonated with me. And once I found out I was West African, that's when I was like, okay, I can get it because that is part of me and my culture. But people are just so quick to just do stuff just because they think it's cool. Like, I was even just researching recently henna tattoos in Africa, because a lot of people don't realize, they think of this just as an Indian ritual, but it's not. It runs deep in Africa as well. So yeah, a lot of folks just
when you talk about rituals, right? And I find this really interesting. When you look at cultures that were here in the Americas, that were in India, that were in Africa, there's a lot of rituals that are very, very similar. Yes. And it makes you wonder, how is that, right? Here you are 4,000 years ago, cultures that are 18,000 miles away from each other, but yet they're building the same pyramids, right? They have a lot of the same cultural experiences, right? And rituals. I just find it odd, right? So it sounds like, or to me, it seems like I'm going down the Van Daniken path here, right? The ancient alien theory is that, these gods, beings, aliens touched all of these different continents. That's why you see a lot of the rituals and cultural things that are very, very similar. It's interesting when you think about it, because how else could they get it? It had to originate somewhere,
Well, there's actually a school of thought that's actually sent to you and Uncle Pooh and Dad about how the pyramids were built and how actually the Egyptians or the Kushite people, or what was the actual name for Egypt way before the European name? But they had a system. They had a very advanced naval system and knew how to navigate the world's oceans for a long time. Like there's people have been discovering more and more African, or I should say Egyptian, artifacts throughout the world. Like, for example, in Japan, there's you know the story, the Black Madonna.
Mm-hmm.
There's Black Madonna statues in Japan that came all the way from Africa. They're thousands of years old that were brought there by the rulers of the time, because back then there was a lot of trade going on between each, I should say, nation. I'm not going to say tribe, each nation around the world. And people would bring their artifacts and just as either gifts or to leave. And there's still I gotta find this. I'll find it, but there's a temple over there that has a Black Madonna with there's a the very African features, or I should say, I wish I was another term for that because Africa's a continent, but very Black features and things of that nature. And that's thousands of miles away from Africa, and it wasn't like it was enshrined. It's enshrined there. It's not like it was dropped off. Like someone put it there purposefully.
Well, you know what I find very, very interesting? Look at some of the Chinese statues, right, from back in the day. Even the Buddhists, right? When you look at their statues, look at the facial features. If that ain't Tyrone from Inkster, I don't know who the hell it is.
Tyrone from Inkster got around.
Yeah.
I've heard of the thing about the landmass of the continent of Africa and South America with one landmass. If that were true, then you could traverse the whole world, on land, on your feet, So, and if the Black man has been around so long, he probably been all over in North America and South America, all down through the Central America and everything, because you had this one landmass and the water wasn't there, for him to tread. But even after that, they were able to over to the Americas from Africa. But they were talking about with the trade wind. So we've been around as a people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say like the trade winds. I would say these people built pyramids on the planet that can't be understood to this day. You don't think they were circumnavigating the globe on the water? Like every 6-year-old knows you can put something on the tide and it'll float over thousands of years. They figured out the water and how to navigate it. It's the narrative of the West is wasn't nobody boating on the water until white folks figured it out. Till Christopher Columbus started sailing, or the Vikings, right? They love to tell you about the Nordic Vikings.
So, you know what? There's a movie called
right.
There's a movie called whose phone is this? Oh, is that Grandpa? Okay. You gonna answer the phone during the show. All right. That's cool. Hey,
it was in the middle drawer.
Hey, this is the best part of the show.
I know it. I know it.
Yeah, you talking to somebody who calling in. All right. But there's a movie called, I believe, Longboats, and it's with Sidney Poitier in it, and he's a Moor, and he's hiring Vikings to discover a treasure for him. And if you watch the film, they show him, and he's like in his harem and his castle and everything. He's a sultan, I believe. And the word Moor, because like a lot of people found out what Moor is these days, actually is like to moor a ship, someone who travels. So they already knew, he already was aware of where these things were around the world. He was paying other people like, hey, I know y'all are good at sailing. Need y'all to get this for me. I'm handling business right now where I'm at. And the movie was about there's all these old movies where you see like it was one of the older Robin Hood movies with Morgan Freeman in it. He was a Moor. He was talking to what's his name? The dude with the Dances of Wolves. What's his name? Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner was Robin Hood in the movie, and
of course
Morgan Freeman pulls out a telescope, and no one but him, like everyone's looking at him like, what is that? What is that? What do you have there? And he's like, this is a telescope. And then he talks to what's this dude's name? Kevin Costner. He's like, it's amazing that your people took over the world. And then he takes the telescope out and looks at what he's looking at, and then he shows him how to use it. And the whole part of the movie, the whole rest of the way in the movie, he's basically teaching these people how to use arrows and use tools and stuff like that. And it's very rare, but if you look at some of these older Hollywood movies, the black person was often the time the person with wisdom in it, and they were showing everybody else how to use it.
Yeah.
And
well, at the end of the downfall of the Roman Empire, Europe was plunged into the Dark Ages, where they forgot everything that they had learned during the Greek and Roman period. The Greeks and Romans, of course, learned it from Africa.
Right.
But what brought Europe out of that Dark Ages is that the Moors, a group of North African black people and Arabs, invaded Spain, and it took almost 800 years to push them out. Matter of fact, the last battle was in the city of Granada in 1492, and Columbus stood on a hill and watched that battle. And once they were able to push the Moors out of Europe, that's when Queen Isabella was able to divert her resources to funding his trip around the world, because she no longer had to spend it trying to get these black folks out of Spain.
Interesting.
Freddie, expound on that part about Granada.
Yeah, so me and Pops took a trip to southern Spain a couple of years back. We stayed in Granada, and we actually got the tour of the Alhambra, right, where the location of that battle that you were talking about. This place is, I was about to try to pull it up. This place is absolutely fascinating, right? Like, we toured this place. It's like 3 miles up on top of a hill, like the whole, like when you're walking the palace, right? Like, I mean, it's like a tree line forest in there with beautiful flowers and all of this stuff. The design is so amazing. I watched the documentary on that courtyard, Pops. I don't know if you remember the courtyard in the center. And they were
I remember it well. With the fountains in it.
Yeah, with the fountains. They were talking about the mathematics of what you're looking at.
The golden ratio?
The golden ratio was prevalent all throughout, like, the entire castle. But while you're there, if you don't know the history, they gonna spin you that the white people, the Catholics, built this place up. They turned it into whatever it is. But me and Dan walking around in the back like, he lying. Like, he's lying. They did not create.
What did the guide say? They probably got that from the Romans.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They was doing everything they could to keep you off of who the Moors are, despite, like, just the obvious. And I'll say this about Granada: they really kept, even North Morocco, even Morocco in general, they really kept the Moors, the Black Moors influence. Like, you see the murals on the wall is dark-skinned Africans. Like, that. That was really surprising to me. Even though the history that they tell and the language that they speak, right, doesn't reflect that. When you go there, the imagery, it's no doubt who dominated that area.
Is this what you're? Hold on. I think I found the ones you're talking about.
You searched.
Are these the ones you're talking about?
Yeah. That's part of it. Like, you got to get out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that place is. It's like, man, if y'all get a chance to go, yeah, that room was. Remember that room, Pops? That was beautiful, man. The architecture inside of this place is phenomenal. It's the details are crazy. Yeah, there go the courtyard, but the math behind all of this that is all set on, and all of this is inside of the Alhambra, right? It's up on that big hill. Right. Oh man, beautiful. Beautiful history.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's.
So I was checking out Tanzania, and the culture is Swahili, which is an Arab and African mix. Didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. I know they say
that. Would you repeat that?
So the culture is Swahili.
Hank, Pop said repeat it, Hank.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I want you to repeat because I didn't hear what you said.
I'm getting ready to. So the Tanzania culture is Swahili, which is an Arab and African mix.
Oh, okay.
They also state there's a big Asian community there, particularly Indians.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to see it. Crystal's going. Is it you going there or is Zanzibar different? That's just an island right off of Tanzania.
I'm going to Zanzibar specifically.
Is that a different country or is that?
Yeah.
Is that a different country or is that Tanzania?
As far as what I've seen is Zanzibar is in Tanzania.
Okay, so that's like a region of Tanzania.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Never knew they had such a resort.
Yeah, man. Madagascar is like beautiful, right? Like you don't think about that being Africa, right? But it's like, man, it is. I was telling Chris I want to see it, but we got to go to Egypt first. I mean, before we.
Yeah, Zanzibar is actually an island right off of Tunisia.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, beautiful places though. I know.
Well, isn't Madagascar island too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yes,
now Mozambique it's not an island, it's right on the coast. Is that true or not? Mozambique.
Yes.
Yeah, right on the water.
Mm-hmm.
But in Kenya.
All right. Well, let me
get back I had heard there was some story about the Jewish people. The final solution was to take the Jewish people and move them to Mozambique, not Mozambique, but Madagascar. Back in 1942, before the final solution. And that was a place they were supposed to go until the war got so bad that they couldn't transport people over there to Madagascar. If anybody heard of that one?
Never heard that one.
Go ahead.
I've never heard that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense because there's German East Africa. That's when they called it for a while. So let me see. As most colonized territories, it was just used for cash crops and railroad lines and things of that nature. But there were some resistances, especially one by Auntie just left. Chief Makawawa resisted Germany's expansion, but eventually they quarried him and he committed suicide as opposed to being defeated. So, but people weren't just lying down and just taking colonization. People were actively fighting still, but they got their independence. I believe I said earlier it was 1964. A lot of things happened in the 60s for Black people worldwide. That's interesting enough.
The fact that all of them happened, I ain't gonna say all of them, but like most of the countries, right, got there. I think Ghana was first, right, 1957. 56.
Who was the first person we did in this series? Because I think that was
Ghana.
Ghana was. Yeah, you're right. Ghana was the first place.
Yeah, Ghana was first, and then like all of them just kind of like started happening back to back. It's almost like the Europeans said, "All right, let's just divest out of Africa and control it from a distance." I still don't think they're fully.
But both World War I and World War II were just a bunch of white folks fighting over which white people were going to control Africa and Asia. And the downside of being an empire is that it costs so much. You'd wind up with so many people dying that they didn't have, the European countries didn't have a strong enough army to hold on to their colonies anymore. But they still try to dominate the economics of those colonies. Each African country, most of the Asian countries they have so-called independence, but there's still European or American companies coming in there exploiting the natural resources and not giving fair trade or fair price for it. You know, even in Arabia, it was controlled by the Ottoman Turks until they decided with Germany in World War I, when they were defeated, then England got a control of it. Now we got British Petroleum selling Arab oil on the streets of Inkster and Detroit. And the only people in Arabia making a whole lot of money is the royal family. You know, the average Arab isn't really getting a benefit out of that, and they're not getting a fair price. What we would pay for an American to pump oil out of the ground is a lot higher than what we would pay some Arab sheik to let us pump out of his ground.
Right.
I know they were speaking about the Chinese coming into Africa. And somehow or another, they were kind of bypassing the market and putting it on the world market. They were saying like they were getting something like 12% out of the oil they were transporting out of Africa. But when they met with the Chinese, they made a special deal where they were getting something like 50%. You know, they were splitting it up, but keeping it off the world market, because with the world market, you got to go with the stock, you know, where the stock rise and fall, you know.
A lot of that is theft. Like I remember a few years ago on Discovery Channel, there was a show about these two white dudes who are going to, because remember the gold rush shows out in Alaska. There's a show about these two white dudes who went to Africa, trying to mine gold in Africa someplace, right? And almost every episode they ran into resistance either from locals or from the Chinese people that were illegally mining in Africa.
Still are.
Still are. A lot of it is theft. Like how many times have we talked about the memes on here? Have you seen like videos or images of Asian people or Chinese people, to be more exact, over there illegally mining? And it's some of it is illegal. Some of it is just the government doesn't either have the manpower or is allowing it to happen. And it's not like it's like, to the ultimate point, for nations in Africa that sit on literal gold mines, diamond mines, every resource that you use for your phones, your laptops, everything, and for the people to not be gaining any wealth from that is robbery. And I don't know how else to put it. But
it's by design. Hey, good folks. I got to run. I enjoyed the time I did get to spend with you.
Hey, bro.
Appreciate you jumping in.
Absolutely. Take care, good folks.
Talk to you soon, man.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Go buy some Ford.
But no, it's interesting. I mean, that's just another point. But as of right now, so another fact, interesting right now, the first female president of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu Hussein, is current. She's the current president of Tanzania, first female president of Tanzania.
What?
So,
that's pretty big in modern Africa.
Yeah. No, that goes to something that Auntie talks about. Like we've learned a lot of leadership. I should say a lot, but there have been female leaders that we find in history in Africa. Like we find,
right? But I said modern Africa.
I understand. I'm just saying we're finding that in Africa a lot in terms of history and these countries we've gone through so far.
Well, Liberia has I think they still have a female president.
Oh, really?
I think that's true. Yeah, I think I heard about her.
Ellen Sirleaf or something like that.
It's interesting. When we were in Atlanta a couple weeks ago, one of the ladies in our mastermind, she's from Liberia. I didn't know that they call Liberians fake Africans. Had you all ever heard that before? She's like, They always call us fake Africans. They say that we're more westernized than most people. And I was like, I had never heard that before in my life.
Well, they were a colony. You know, America doesn't want to call it a colony, but that Liberia is the only American colony on the continent of Africa, and it was Abraham Lincoln's plan to send the freed slaves back to Africa and settle them right there in Liberia. So there's some conflict there between the Africans who never left the continent and those who returned after being having their ancestors enslaved. And the government for a time was dominated more by the those African Americans, freed slaves who had moved back there. I think even Harriet Tubman might have, some of her descendants might have moved there and settled there in Liberia.
Was that was during the Monroe administration when they were shipping people back to Africa, and then the major city in Liberia is Monrovia, I believe. Am I correct with that?
Yes.
And they was intending with Abraham Lincoln, they were suggesting, that anybody that wanted to go back, could go back, even, prior to Civil War,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't think that the freed slaves and white former slave owners would ever be able to get along with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they were right, though.
They got that one right.
Yeah,
That's a good call.
So far.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they.
I still wonder why we still trying to get along.
Yeah.
Hey man, all I know is this: ain't nobody. I ain't giving them no American citizenship, so they cut that check. You ain't about to just walk away from the money.
I keep saying we're gonna get our dual citizenship, but we ain't forfeiting our passport.
Oh no. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be like, hey, you know what? I'm done with American. And then like, all right, cool. And then all that money or whatever, all those resources that is ours to rightfully and legally claim will just be out in the wind and do something else with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was talking about that the other day about resources. Here's a continent that has all the copper. They got the gold. They got the diamonds. They got the oil. They got the silver. They even got the water. They tell me that they could, if they harness the water there, they could light up all of Africa. That's how much energy they got in the water in Africa. Mm-hmm. Now, this country with all these resources, how is it happening to be this about the poorest continent on earth?
It was like Uncle Hank said.
It wasn't by accident, was it?
It wouldn't be. No. It wouldn't be cheap for everybody else to get those resources off the ground if they had to go through a real united front of people who are on the landmass who own the land. Mm-hmm. I mean, shoot, you got I don't know how else to say it, but I mean, you know what? To get back, I'm gonna try to get back to what our topic was today. But
Tanzania.
Tanzania. So we learned in recap that is the as of now the cradle of civilization was found on here. It's changed a lot of hands in terms of who owned it or who was the rightful caretaker of. I shouldn't say owned it. And
I don't know about rightful who took it.
Who took it? And even now, Tanzania as it is today isn't what it was. It was actually other larger land masses which were named by people before our time. But it's just interesting. I wish I understood. Maybe we should do an episode on the what's it called?
Berlin Conference.
The Berlin, not as Berlin. What was it called? That specific group.
What are you speaking to?
Huh?
You talking about when they chopped up Africa?
Yeah, what was United Nations Trust? Oh, the League of Nations. We should do an episode of the League of Nations because that would probably answer a lot of these questions because we keep running into this.
What happened?
Yeah, we keep running into this. This is what it was before colonization, and
Yeah, the League of Nations was formed after World War I believe, and the Berlin Conference happened before that. And part of the fight in World War I was Germany was locked out of most of Africa, and they wanted their peace, and they needed the natural resources to use and build up their industry. Yeah, I see. Founded in 1920, League of Nations. The Berlin Conference happened in 1884, 1885. Mm-hmm. That's when they.
Oh yeah, we never joined the League of Nations. Even we helped found it. We never joined the League of Nations.
Yeah.
I wonder where that was.
Well, the American public was against it.
Why?
That's a good question.
Oh, Grandpa said, like, as a matter of fact. Well, this is actually
America first.
Yeah.
They talked it back then. They talked it last year with Trump. So
America first.
Yeah, ain't a lot of things are different, but much is still the same, right?
Same.
So my next question is, why create something that you're not going to be a part of?
So you can control it.
Yeah.
You know, just because you ain't involved in something don't mean you don't control the key people that is, right? This is like Black Leadership 101. Like, white people don't have to actually be Black to control it, because they could just buy out a couple of Negroes and they have them do they did, you know.
Yeah.
It's the illusion of inclusion, right?
Only a couple?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of key Negroes, right? That's all they need. I mean, Joe Biden grabbed Kamala and, you know, and a couple of rappers and, you know, had
I'm definitely keeping my camera off now.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because for the last part of the show, I want to, because me and Mr. Walden were actually talking about this a little bit. I don't know if you want to talk about this still, but can you talk a little bit about how the education system's changed since you've retired, or as it was changing as you were getting out, especially for Black people? Because like Mr. Walden, my high school, like people don't know. Some people in the chat, the comments like Terry Wilson and Will Tyra were saying, "Hey, Mr. Walden," but it's interesting to me that the politics behind the education system, especially in the Black community, that Mr. Walden at my high school, which was majority Black, was one of the few Black teachers at the school. And can you kind of touch on a few things, Mr. Walden, like as you saw it and as you see it now?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been poisoned toward the public school system, and they want to find some magical answer to the problems. And I have a sister. She used to be a news reporter, but now she's teaching in charter schools. Well, people are bouncing their kids from charter school to charter school. Every single year, they're in a different charter school, trying to find some perfect environment instead of putting the effort forward to build up the public schools so that they could do what they used to do. When I first started teaching, I was at a middle school, and not only did the teachers go in the classroom and teach math, science, social studies, and whatever other subjects they had, but they also, during some of their free hours or after school, we had all these different clubs and organizations going on. I was involved in the newspaper club, the photography club, yearbook club, along with some of the other teachers working with the kids, and the kids got a little extra. Once they started burdening us down with paperwork and all of the wasted energy, we stopped all those things. And I'll make this short. What we had to do back in those days, we'd take photographs, we'd type out an article, mail that into a company that would typeset everything, print the paper, and mail it back to us. And then we'd sell that paper for a dime a quarter or whatever it was at that time. Nowadays, all you have to do to produce a school newspaper is sit at a computer, use Publisher, and produce that. And once you got the template in place, you can insert new articles every week. But most of these schools don't have a newspaper club anymore, because the teachers are wasting too much of their time with a bunch of silliness. And you got people who, I was telling Sean that while I've had some excellent administrators, I've had some very poor ones too. And I find that some of the teachers who can't teach then get an extra piece of paper so that they can tell the other teachers how to do their job. And some get a PhD and they run around teaching, doing seminars about whatever that was in their doctoral thesis. And it's like in circles. When I was in college, I graduated EMU in 1973. We talked about group work. 15 years later, they were having seminars and in-services about cooperative learning. They had changed the title and it was the same thing. And just before I retired, they were talking about project-based learning. which is group work with computers. So, and Robichaud spent $1.5 million for a company to come in, set up one entire hallway with laptops, and the kids would work on a project. Well, Sean probably knows if you put a group of kids in a group to work on a project, Sean is going to do all the work, produce the report. The other kids are going to sign their name to it. They're going to get credit, but they're not going to learn anything. And, you know, people like Sean, students like Sean, they get upset because they do all the work, but they shouldn't be upset because they're doing all the learning. And the others are just wasting their time. So it's pathetic. They disrespect teachers to the point where they can't find good teachers. And the same people who have been attacking the public schools because they could make money on owning a charter school are now putting just anybody in the classroom because they can't find qualified teachers. They shouldn't have put, you know, when they pushed me out the door, it was perfect timing. It was 2 years earlier than I had planned to leave. But it was the right time for me. But they shouldn't have been trying to push us out before they had somebody to replace us. So
I think you should just drop the mic, Mr. Walton, because he just spilled all the food and called it all out. I love it.
Yeah.
Once he said teachers doing too much foolishness and all this paperwork, that's why I was completely sold in, because it's the truth. You know, we haven't been educators, but we talk about it frequently, just seeing it from the other side as parents, the educational system. And Joshua was telling you that our boys are super, I guess, technically gifted. I hate that term, but they are. But because of that, and because of the work that we put in with them, and just because of the natural abilities that we saw that they had, we were very involved in the school system, to the point where I was the first parent that they had on the No Child Left Behind committee for the district. And that was when I realized how much foolishness is going on, and just the politics of what's going on in the schools. It's not about the kids at all. It's literally about funding, period. And whatever it takes to get that funding, that's what they're going to do. And the babies don't matter. And it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, it's funding for what, though? I mean, like, if you're not investing in the students who the funding should be for, like, you know, it's just weird. It's weird to say that out loud. You know what I mean?
I mean, because you gotta think like it. I mean, I will make a presidential run, right? Like, think about how much money Trump spent of his own money to become president. Like, why would somebody spend so much money or energy, right, to become something? Because they start to control the money. They control the budgets. So even on the school level, it's not the presidential level, but they got money that they can control. And you're saying, well, if they're not spending it on the kids, who they spending it on? Their brother-in-law who owned this computer company to come in, lace this one hallway with $1.2 million, right? Like, these aren't presidential budgets, but they're controlling a lot of money in underserved Black communities who have additional funds that's supposed to support and lift them up, but they're diverting it to, they're doing what every politician does, unchecked, right? As long as
when Engler was governor, he started supplying all the teachers with computers. Well, I was happy to get that gateway computer. Later on, I realized that his good friend and relative by marriage, Snyder, was one of the top 3 at Gateway. So he was hooking his buddy up with the contract for computers throughout the United States. And then later, that same buddy then leaves Gateway and becomes governor of the state of Michigan so that he can continue to suck that money out and give it to his cronies.
Yeah. And it's happening all over the country.
Yeah.
You know, right up under our noses. We just arguing about other things, but man, it's frustrating because the babies aren't learning, right? And our children, particularly Black children, are getting left behind like crazy. And you know, we still arguing about nonsense, man. I don't know. We better tend to these children and ensure that they got a chance.
That's a good way to round out the show. Mr. Walden. We only do it for an hour because I gotta get back to work. It's my lunch break. But man, you gotta come back, man. Like
Yeah.
Mr. Walden.
I was thinking the same thing.
I enjoyed the invitation and meeting your relatives and seeing you again. So
thank you. Yeah, Mr. Walden. When we get around to the Berlin conference, you gotta come back on if you want to.
Yeah.
Because that's some good stuff. Like it's nice to have a real historian, a real teacher. Like like they always people if you ever seen on Facebook, every once in a while the post of who was your first black teacher or who was your first black male teacher or first black female teacher, and you weren't my first, but you were probably I shouldn't say probably. I think you affected me the most in terms of education when I was in high school.
That's
Because
awesome.
like I've reiterated a few times now, Mr. Walden was telling the truth. Like I had never heard what he said in my life about like slavery or like black people history or just anything about the world. Like he made me think because I was like, I was real prideful and everything. I was talking all this big stuff. He was just like, I remember one time I didn't take offense to this because it made me think. He was just like, it's a lot and he didn't say it's exactly verbatim, but this is what he meant. He was like, it's a lot of big talk for somebody who got their last name from a slave master. And I was just like, oh, I didn't know what to do because I was just like, he wasn't wrong.
The fact he's dead on accurate, right?
Like it froze me. I was shook in class, and I wasn't saying I was a clown, but like I was really prideful about in my opinion, knowing more than most of my peers. And Mr. Walden was just like, man, you a child. Just sit down.
I didn't say that. I might have acted that way though. But what I enjoyed most about Sean is that you could challenge him, and I believe that a teacher that doesn't challenge their students is just getting a paycheck for nothing. So, he was somebody who I could challenge, who would, he was smart, obviously very smart and ready to learn. So.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite times of the day. I was just like, I used to try to get Mr. Walden. I was like, maybe I can get him something he don't know about. He always knew. So, the last part of the show, we do the final thoughts. So, Auntie, go first. What's your final thoughts today?
Wow, this has been. We've done how many? Well, you've done 119. I've probably done. I don't know how many I've done right now. How many episodes? But this has been one of my favorite shows. I've learned a lot. Mr. Walden is the type of teacher that all students need. It was great to hear from him, but also sad and frustrating because I picked up on the getting pushed out early on, and it's just a reminder of how these districts don't want the real teachers. They just want placeholders, and these babies need to be put first. And I know the show was supposed to be about Zanzibar. I learned a lot.
Tanzania.
Tanzania. I got Zanzibar on the brain, baby. That's where I'm going. Look here. But I did learn a lot about Tanzania too. So what they had me doing was research. Huh?
No, keep going.
What you say, babe? Oh, okay. But I did learn a lot about. I didn't even realize. Like, that's a shame going there next year. Zanzibar, I didn't even realize where it was. But I learned a lot today. But today, I will say the highlight today, I think this was a really good conversation. It was really good to hear from Mr. Walden, meet him, learn from him. And I think, honestly, my biggest highlight for the day, feel like this is one of Pops' favorite conversations. So that just made me happy.
Yeah, he was all in today.
That's my final thought.
Okay. Uncle Pooh, what's your final thought?
I guess my final thought is hats off, Mr. Walden. We appreciated having you. That was excellent. I'm with Chris. I love that Pops has leaned forward and he was highly engaged the whole time. And it made me realize though that I don't know much about Eastern and Lower Eastern Africa. Like, it's not that I know much about Africa in general, right? But it's just how top heavy I am, right? Like, I understand the top and the West, but I don't really know outside of South Africa, right? It's like, it's just a big void. Well, I know a little bit about the Congo, just studying Patrice Lumumba.
We'll do South Africa next week.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So, I mean, it's a big continent, it's a big place, and I want to see all of it. So, this just gave me a little bit more information of on another place I want to visit.
What about Mr. Walton? Why don't you give your final thought?
Yeah, I really enjoyed myself, especially mentioning Granada, and then you were able to pull up those photographs and share your personal experiences. I think that really was topped off the discussion today.
Awesome.
Well, Grandpa, what's your final thought?
My final thoughts was that trip to the Alhambra gave me a different prospect on our exile, or not exile, but our transfer from Egypt to the West Coast. I've always wondered how we got there, But then the Alhambra gave me a picture with the Moors, because they know for a fact that the majority of the Moors were black people, real dark-skinned people. And that was enlightening when we went to the Alhambra and saw what they could accomplish. And it was it was eye-awakening to me. So this is how it was, My final thoughts.
Okay. Mr. Walton, as we tend to do with our guests, I guess you'll be our correspondent of history of the world. Whenever we need a little extra credibility to come in on here, and I guess you also historic tutorial matters. We like to say it's a real station, so we gotta have correspondence. My final thought is I'm happy Mr. Walton came in. This is great for me personally. Glad we had this conversation. Another great episode 119 in the books. I'm just happy. It's a good day. I will see you guys next week. Grandpa, I'll see you Saturday or Friday. Yeah, Saturday. I gotta pick you up, take you to the game.
Okay.
And I love everybody. See you next week.
All right, take care.